all across America and around the world. This is Veterans Radio. This is Veterans Radio. And now, your host for today's program, Dale Throneberry.
And welcome to Veterans Radio. My name is Dale Throneberry. I was a CW-2 helicopter pilot in Vietnam, 1969, with the 195th Assault Helicopter Company. I want to welcome you to our program today, and it's a really special one. We're going to be talking about post-traumatic stress. We're trying to tie in some things with the ending of the war in Afghanistan on the 31st. We know that there are some issues out there with our veteran community, and so we've got a couple of experts on the program to talk about treatments for post-traumatic stress and to hopefully get some of us to calm down regarding what occurred in Afghanistan, because it brought back a lot of memories, of course, for another generation of veterans with the fall of Saigon back in 1975. So we will get into that. Our guests today include Melissa Engle, who is a therapist, licensed professional mental health care counselor since 2005. She has worked at the Charles S. Kettles Ann Arbor VA Healthcare Center for many years. She is working on her PhD, and she also has her private practice out there that we'll be talking about in a little bit. So she's here to answer your questions. Michael Gier, who is a producer, director, filmmaker, was on our program back in March. We were talking about his film, Wounded Heroes, and he offered us a number of different potential modality, I guess you would call it, for treating of post-traumatic stress and so forth. So we're going to be talking with him in a little bit as well. I encourage you, if you have any questions or you know someone who's having some issues right now, to give us a call today. This is why we're here. The number is 734-822-1600. That's 734-822-1600. Before I get into this whole thing, I have a couple of announcements real quickly. Number one is locally there is going to be the 12th Annual Veterans Summit, sponsored by Legal Help for Veterans. This is going to be on Wednesday, September 15th from 10 a.m. to noon at the Village Arts Factory in Canton, Michigan. This year's program is going to have a lot of question and answer formats, including medical exam, disability benefits, post-traumatic stress claims, hearing loss, appeals, burial benefits, so on and so forth. The event is free, but they do ask that you register. And let me give you a call number for that. Her name is Beth Mead, and her number is 734-495-1200. Again, this is the 12th Annual Veterans Summit on Wednesday, September 15th. For more information, you can go to Legal Help for Veterans, and it's right on their homepage right there. And speaking of Legal Help for Veterans, Legal Help for Veterans is one of our sponsors, and so I've got to really thank them. We appreciate their support for Veterans Radio, and they've kept us on the air for a number of years. They are specialized in veterans disability claims, so give Legal Help a call at 800-693-4800. The National Veterans Business Development Council, better known as NVBDC, is the nation's leading third-party authority for a certification of veteran-owned businesses. For more information, you can go to their website, nvbdc.org. We've got the Eisenhower Center that specializes in the treatment for veterans, first responders, and athletes. Anyone suffering from post-traumatic stress, TBI, or a closed head injury. For more information, go to eisenhowercenter.com. U.S. Wings is the manufacturer and distributor of the finest leather flight jackets we think in the world. So go to uswings.com for more information. And also, I want to make sure that you register to win the flight jacket that U.S. Wings has been giving away every month on Veterans Radio on our benefits program, which is always the last Sunday of the month. So go to veteransradio.net, click on the flight jacket, and register to win. It's a $300 flight jacket, man. It's an awesome jacket. So do that. The Charles S. Kettles VA Medical Center in Ann Arbor is one of our sponsors. And, of course, our local veteran service organizations, Vietnam Veterans of America Chapter 310, the American Legion Post 46, and VFW 423. Learn more about these organizations and the services they provide on our website at veteransradio.net/our sponsors. If you'd like to become a sponsor of Veterans Radio, that's where you go. So, all right. Let's get into this. The number again, 734-822-1600. Joining me right now is our resident therapist, and that is Melissa Engle. And Melissa, welcome back to Veterans Radio.
Thanks, Dale, for having me. I appreciate being here.
So tell me, I know in your practice you have probably had some veterans that are calling you because they are concerned, they're upset, they're angry. I guess probably the emotional spectrum is filled from one end to the other with what people are going through because of our withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Yeah, absolutely. Every day in my practice, I'm talking with veterans about their feelings of the withdrawal from Afghanistan. And it's, like you mentioned, bringing back a lot of memories as well for Vietnam era veterans. So I've seen a big influx of people really struggling to cope with, like you mentioned, the anger primarily and the sadness and the grief that comes with, being in a war. For me, this is personal. My partner served in Afghanistan. And so as a civilian and as a partner, I see the toll. I see the impact of it personally. And, that's why I wanted to be with you guys today to sort of spread the good news and the idea that although these feelings are big feelings and they're legitimate and valid, there is a way to move beyond this and to get back to a sense of normalcy. And we haven't had that in a couple of years. So I'd like to,
That's true.
Kind of just sort of work through that process of like, how do we cope? And the first thing I wanted to say is that it's normal. All these feelings that people are having of frustration and anger. I wasn't even there. I didn't serve and I'm pissed off, right? So these things are happening all around us, and the media has got a very kind of, slanted way of approaching the topic that really doesn't speak to the experience, which is a unique experience for each individual who served. So the first thing I want to, just encourage people to recognize is that if you are in a veteran community, the best thing that you can do is check on your buddies, reach out to them, ask them if they need to vent, ask them if they need to talk, recognize if you're the one who needs a buddy and needs to talk, and connect with those people who were also there, who experienced similar things as yourself. And that really is just a priceless type of intervention that no medication or professional therapist can match. Is just the support of the people that were with you. So I just want to encourage folks to just start within their own communities and within their own families. Start talking with your partners, start talking with your spouses, your children, the people around you in your community. I know for myself, my partner's been asked a lot of times, how do you think and how do you feel about what's going on in Afghanistan, and with people who know that he was there. And it's been an opportunity, but it's also been a stress, right? So it's better to have those conversations with people that we know will be supportive and understanding and encouraging. But how do we do that for each other if we're already like in the muck ourselves, right? If we're not in a good space about it, we might not be the best person to either reach out, or we might need our own help before we can sort of give a hand to someone else in need. So that's really just sort of the next stage, is if this is really causing some impairment in your life and in your mood and in your relationships, then you need to seek professional help, and you need to find a clinician who is an expert with veterans' mental health care and reintegration. And doing those two things are going to probably be the biggest buffers that we can encourage people to take, is just that reaching out to their community and then reaching out to professionals if they need additional assistance beyond that.
Well, there's a couple of things, obviously, that they can do. We know that there's a Veterans Crisis line out there, and we encourage people to utilize that line. It's that number is 1-800-273-8255, and you press the number 1 when you get there. And as Melissa pointed out, if you don't think that you can, I don't want to use the term handle this, but deal with the situation that it's bothering you right now, that you may want to seek some professional help out there. And that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about today, is that there is no one treatment for people, with post-traumatic stress. And our two guests, both of them, Melissa and Michael Gier, are going to be hopefully talking about some things as we go along that will show you that post-traumatic stress can be cured. I don't know if cured's the right way, but can be
absolutely the right word. Yeah, absolutely. It can be. One of the biggest deterrents for people reaching out to help is a fear that it won't help and it won't benefit them, a reluctance to feel like they deserve that help in the first place, that I call it the Black Knight syndrome. I didn't have it as bad as other guys, right? So there's a lot of reasons for why people don't get help. But for those that do, what's really critical is that they're informed about what their options are when it comes to treatment. If you're going to a provider and they're saying, well, this is a terrible thing and you're going to be this way forever, and handing out bottles of prescriptions and not really addressing the underlying issues, that's probably not going to end up with you getting a lot of benefit from it. So it's really about knowing where to seek help and when, but also it's about realizing that PTS is a treatable condition. It's not a death sentence, and it's not something that is a result of some sort of failure or pathology. It's a normal adaptive response of the nervous system to experiencing trauma. And that's what we know. We know that, most of us at some point are going to go through something that rocks our world. And if we find that months later it's still causing our bodies to react and respond, then that's when it's a big cue. Your body is going to be the first cue to let you know, hey, every time I see this or I hear this or I go there or I talk about this, right, it brings out a big feeling of anxiety or tension or intense emotions like anger and frustration. So, what I guess I want to focus on is just once you've gotten to the idea that you might need some help, what do? Well, it's going to be individual for each person. Different people respond to different treatments. And I kind of want to call it the old guard and the new guard. So I'm just going to break it down into a couple of sections there. So the old guard is the traditional medication management, prolonged exposure therapies, cognitive behavioral therapies, and things like that the VA administration and the healthcare at the VA are providing to our veterans. And these are long-term evidence-based effective treatments, but they're not as good as some of the newer brain-based treatments that are out there. And it's frustrating for me. I used to work at the VA and I wanted to see change and I wanted to see veterans getting the best possible care. And what I found is that with a lot of government agencies, there's a reluctance to change. And that idea of the way that we've always done it is the right way to do it. And for some folks, that's true and it does work, and the VA saves lives every day. So I don't want to discourage anyone, certainly, from going down that path. But what I can say is that there are newer, more novel treatments that are more tolerable in general, that are shorter term, that don't require medication or hospitalization or residential services of any kind. And they can be done in an outpatient setting without any kind of side effects other than you feel a lot better when you walk out the door. Now, I know this because I do this every day. I see the numbers. I evaluate these soldiers and these Marines when they come in, and I see how severe their PTSD is. And by the end of our treatment protocol, they're lower than the general population. Their scores are just gone. Their PTSD is essentially cured. But really what matters is not the label of do you have it or do you not, but do you feel better? And these folks are feeling better, and there is help. And that's why I'm here today with you, is just to encourage people to just believe that if they could just give treatment a few hours of their time, it's not a huge investment, but the payoff and the reward is you get to feel like yourself again, and you get to move on with your life and be a productive member of your family and of your community in ways that you haven't been able to. You start going from surviving mode to thriving mode. And to be able to take part in that process and to sort of shepherd people along in that has been revolutionary to my practice and to my career. I've been a therapist working with trauma and PTSD and veterans for, going back to the 90s, if I dare date myself. And, for 15 years or so, it was just like, hey, let's try to talk about it. And, what the veterans' feedback was is that talking about it doesn't fix it. It doesn't change it, and it doesn't make it feel better. In fact, talking about it just makes the wound feel raw and open and infected, right, with new emotions and new experiences. So it's really crucial that we find a better way of helping them. And there are better ways. So that's what I wanted to talk about with you today.
Okay. Well, we're going to move right over to Michael Gier right now with his documentary on wounded heroes. As I mentioned, that we talked about here on Veterans Radio back in March. And I just thought, Melissa was talking about alternative treatments, and your documentary is all about that. So tell me, kind of give us a little review of how you got involved in making that documentary and why.
Absolutely. So what's interesting is I've never met Melissa. We've just met for the first time. And Melissa, everything you're saying is exactly what I believe. It's exactly what I've learned the last 3 years doing this project. And this film, Wounded Heroes, is that message. There is hope. You can get your lives back. And the reason I started this project was because I met a guy in San Diego named Carl. He was battling post-traumatic stress. He was on 16 different medications, down from 18. And it wasn't actually helping. He said it was just pushing back the symptoms, and it was more of a Band-Aid. And he was a mess. And I walked out of that interview, and that's when I decided I needed to produce a documentary, because there had to be something more than just a bunch of medications that are just acting as a Band-Aid that don't actually solve the problem. And so that set me off on the journey. I didn't know anything about post-traumatic stress. I actually thought it was something that only the military dealt with. I had no idea that all of us could get it. Any traumatic events, which is, as you said, it's a normal reaction to a traumatic event. So I went on this 3-year journey, and we found amazing treatments and options. ART, accelerated resolution therapy, being one of them, which I know, Melissa, you do. And the fact is, people can get their lives back. And I'm releasing another film September 11th called Healing the Heroes of 9/11. And we went to New York and interviewed a number of first responders from the Pentagon and at Ground Zero. And they've battled post-traumatic stress the last 20 years. And on camera, they talk about everything they experienced at Ground Zero 20 years ago, their battle with post-traumatic stress the last 20 years, how it's destroyed many parts of their lives. And then we put them through a protocol we call TRP, Trauma Resiliency Protocol, which is very similar to ART or RTM. But the bottom line is it's a neurological intervention. And then afterwards, we interviewed them, and night and day, they had their lives back. They're sleeping through the night. One gal who hasn't been able to go back into New York City without racing in and racing out as quickly as possible now can take her time. She goes, I forgot how beautiful our skyline is. And she goes, I feel like a tourist because I can actually enjoy it. She was scared to death to take the subway in and out because she was afraid it would stop in the tunnels, and it does at times, which would cause her to panic. And the reason was because she was buried alive a couple of different times as a first responder. When the buildings came down, she and a small group were encapsulated. Thank God they survived, but this happened to her twice. So she doesn't like subways, small confined areas, or going into a tunnel. After TRP, she's walking around going, we actually stopped in the tunnel. I didn't even realize it until I was thinking about it later. One of our other first responders, he hadn't been back to Ground Zero in 20 years. He couldn't get within 2 blocks of it. And then after TRP, we filmed him in the museum walking around for the first time in 20 years. And he keeps sending us messages. What did you do to me? I feel so good. I can't even believe it. So, as Melissa said, Wounded Heroes, I show veterans and first responder, person after person. And then now in this new film, the same thing, person after person who thought they had to live a miserable life for the rest of their life. Many of them had given up hope. Many of them were suicidal. Some had tried to take their lives by suicide. But now, every single one of them, dozens and dozens that I've interviewed, have their lives back and are living a happy, fulfilled life. So that's the purpose of my films. Both films is to let people know, as Melissa said, you can get your life back. Absolutely 100%. You can be healed from post-traumatic stress. And those are what my projects are about. And so I'm just excited, Melissa, that in my opinion, you're right on, and you are helping so many people and sending out the right message and doing it through something as wonderful as ART.
Well, Michael, if it weren't people like you, allowing people to see firsthand the powerful visual sort of nature, right? ART is all about the brain and how we store things as images. And the idea that a picture can say 1,000 words, right? Like when you can see another veteran who went through a similar experience as your own be dramatically healed, I feel like a snake oil salesman most of the time when I tell people I can fix you, just give me an hour. because they say like, well, that seemed pretty bold. Well, yeah. And I wouldn't say that unless I knew it to be true. Right. So I've done it enough as a master certified ART practitioner, and I've got people coming in every day, and it's like witnessing a miracle. It really is a profound and beautiful and sacred experience to watch physically the PTSD leave their bodies and to see that they feel different immediately and that those effects are permanent. And that's without costly time consuming treatment. That's without medications. And that's without having to go to the VA. And that is really appealing to a lot of folks. But I'm one person and I'm a civilian. And so who's going to trust me? But it's my clients who then leave and go tell their other, brothers and sisters in their units about me. And it's that word of mouth. But movies like Wounded Heroes can give people the hope that they desperately need. And if they haven't checked out this film or the new one that's coming out on 9/11, they need to, because they'll learn everything that they need to know about how to heal if they can watch these films and they can be willing to give themselves permission to try to get better, right? So a lot of what I do is just giving people permission to heal and to heal rapidly and to heal dramatically. Because the message has been, oh, you just have to deal with this. You just have to suck it up, right? You just have to embrace the suck. It is what it is. But that's not true. We now know so much about the brain that we actually know how to reconsolidate those memories and put them into a different place in the brain where it no longer holds that same energy and power over us. Myself, I'm a PTSD survivor. I'm cured of my PTSD. I had to take that personal journey for myself, and I benefited from ART, and it was the most extraordinary experience. So I said, I have to do this. I have to offer it to everybody. And if they don't believe me, and if I sound like that overly optimistic, overly confident person who says that they can cure their PTSD and they think I'm full of crap, well, then they're going to think I'm full of crap. But if they're willing to come in and give me an hour, I've seen the PTSD just melt away. And to see the wives and the mothers and the children that are able to reconnect with their veteran in a way that they maybe haven't been able to do since they left for Afghanistan many years ago, it's just been remarkable. So yeah, Dale, when you asked me to come on and talk about PTSD awareness and suicide prevention, it's like we already know what we need to do. We already know how to help people. It's just there's a lot of these giant systems that are in place that don't know how to pivot. They don't know how to change. And
that's the plan, right? That's why you're here, and that's why Michael is here, is that we want our audience to spread the word about these alternative types of treatment, and so that they don't have to depend on medication to calm them down, and then other medication to wake them up, and so on and so forth. And you get into this vicious cycle that is in there. You're listening to Veterans Radio, and we're talking with Melissa Engle, who is a professional mental health counselor, and Michael Gier, who is a producer of a documentary called Wounded Heroes that talks about alternative treatments. And I just want to go to Michael for just a minute here, is to talk about some of the other treatments that you mentioned in your documentary, because we've been talking. Veterans Radio has been on for almost 18 years now, and we have been following this progress in different types of treatment for post-traumatic stress, because that's obviously the main wound that veterans have. And so I just want you to mention a couple of the other options that were available, and then we'll come back to let the two of you talk.
Well, some of the others that we feature in this film, other than I'll talk about the treatments and the options that we do mention, but one of the things we also talk about in the film is, as Melissa said earlier, really, there's three important points for continued success. One is trying something that you think is going to be, because everyone's personality is different, and there's different options out there. It's like somebody may want to do horse therapy, which is one of the things we do feature in our film. It's about a 15-minute segment in the film, and it's just wonderful watching these veterans and first responders connect with the horse, and the horse connect with them, and how it's life-changing for them, which is really cool. We also have, as I mentioned earlier, we talk about ART, but also RTM, reconsolidation of traumatic memories. very similar to ART, the same outcome. They just go about it slightly differently, but it's a neurological intervention. And really what they both do is you're separating out the emotion from the memory. Right now, the emotion is so attached to the memory that when you think about it, just, your body responds to it dramatically and causes a lot of issues, but they're able to process it out, as Melissa said, in less than an hour, and then separate the emotion from the memory where they're supposed to be separated and go, so that you can then think about it and talk about it without that emotional response, which is what's so amazing about and the power of ART and RTM and also TRP, which we feature in the next movie. But those are so we talk about them. We also talk about groups, programs that are like week long, which are also really nice because after you've tried something that works, you can also, then meet with other like-minded people. You have each other's back. You've got a buddy system. When you're overseas fighting war, you fight together as a team. If you need help, you call for backup or you call the Air Force and they come in and drop bombs and I'm a civilian, so I'm not talking the right lingo, but you get my point. But the bottom line is it's okay to work together to conquer the enemy. And in this situation, getting together as a group and meeting other people and forming a new tribe, and you've got people you can call who have each other's back is all a good thing, which is what these programs kind of show as well, because you've got people who have your back. And so that's powerful. The other thing we feature in the film is something called stellate ganglion block. That's a shot in the neck. I don't think most people need that necessarily, but I met a guy when we were filming in Chicago. He was such a mess. He would never have been able to sit down and do ART or RTM or go to horse therapy. I was afraid to get close to him because he had these wild eyes. He looked like a wild animal. And his wife told me, don't get too close. I wanted to film him before his SGB treatment and after, but I couldn't get him on camera before because, like I said, he was a mess and I was kind of nervous to be around him. But after SGB, the man was a completely different person. It was a 10-minute procedure. The wildness was gone. He was relaxed. He was smiling. He was laughing. SGB is a temporary fix. So now this man is in a good place where he can finally go see somebody like Melissa, horse therapy or whatever else he wants to do and find some long-term treatment that does work. But beforehand, he wouldn't have been able to. But SGB allows him to get to a place where now he can find some long-term treatment. So that's why we put SGB in the film, because I do see value in SGB for those who are in such bad shape. They do need to get completely relaxed and calm down so they can then move on to something that will give them lasting hope and healing. So those are some of the other ones that are in the film.
You obviously did a great service, both of you. This is what you do so well, is by providing these options to our veteran community. And I know, Melissa, you do retreats out of Camp Liberty. You take groups of veterans out there for the weekend and talk through some of these issues. Could you tell our audience a little bit about that?
Yeah, that program I founded in 2018. It's a free program for veterans and first responders called Tribe Talks. I read the book by Suggestion Younger called Tribe, and it really just inspired me to find a new way of helping veterans connect, and that is through each other as a community. So we do equine therapy, we do yoga, mindfulness, and in our next section of it, we're going to be adding some ART. So I'm super excited to revamp the program. We make it better every time that we meet. COVID's been a huge bummer, but we were able to do a virtual program recently, and it was a lot of fun. So I'm just going to tell your listeners to grab a pen and paper and start writing down some things, because I'm going to go through a few things real quickly. So if you're interested in getting help for PTSD and you want to cure your PTSD and you are in Michigan, then all you need to do is give me a call. I'm going to give you my cell phone number. It's my personal cell. You can call me right after the show's over. It's 586-222-3391. You can call on behalf of your veteran. If you need me to call them for you, I can try to reel them in, but I'm here to help, and I'm here to give you communication about any kind of local resource, other clinicians that are doing therapies that I know that are going to be rapid and effective, that are brain-based. I'm happy. It's not just an advertisement for me to get new clients because I am full, but I will find a way to help any veteran who comes, and we'll take care of finances. We don't have to worry about any of that. We'll make it happen. That's my commitment to this community, because veterans are my family. The next thing I want to talk about is Veterans Alternative. It's down in Florida, and it's a retreat-based program that's also free for veterans, and they're founded on ART. So they're a great program, and they're doing ART every day down there. Another great program that I'm a big fan of is Boulder Crest. They've got a great facility out in Virginia, who anybody would want to stay there just to begin with. But they're doing great work, and they've expanded recently to Arizona. So that's a great program that's based on what we call PTG, or post-traumatic growth. So they teach meditation practices. They do equine therapy, but the real component of what they do is founded all on the idea that what doesn't kill you can make you stronger, and how to learn the lessons and how to appreciate those experiences that we had on some way and in some place as a gift that has taught us about ourselves and about the world and about what matters to us. Another program that I want to highlight is, as you talked about SGB, they're doing clinical trials at the VA. So you can start with your local VA and find out if there's any clinical trials that are ongoing. There's clinical trials involving ART right now down in Ohio. There's SGB trials going around the country at different VA facilities. There's facilities that you can go to outside of the VA and get the SGB treatment. So there are options. Ketamine therapy has also been shown to be highly effective with this population. However, it is a drug. It's a really strong drug. So not everybody wants to go the medication type of route, but there are medications that can be given. And, last time I was on, we talked about the influx of psychedelics and their influence in the community, and how they're finding a lot of folks are able to benefit from the controlled and proper usage of those type of substances. Another thing that's easier to find just about anywhere is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's EMDR, and you can find an EMDR therapist by just Googling EMDR therapy near me. And there are EMDR clinicians that are available all over the country. You'd want to find someone with a background working with veterans and military populations, of course, but that really isn't too hard to find. And I can connect your listeners to any of those resources as well. And then, TRP and RTM, a lot of acronyms. So if it's confusing, I've put some links on our Facebook page, so they can go to Therapeia on Facebook, and it's spelled weird. It's THERAPEIA. And so they go there, they can get my contact information, they can email me, they can see articles and research that's been published and resources, and they can even schedule a free consultation for me. I'm happy to meet with anybody at any time and kind of get to know what their needs are, and then try to help them make some informed choices and decisions. And I've got a nice PowerPoint I can share with people on how to evaluate and look at the different evidence-based and novel therapies for PTS. But really, the whole point of me being here today is that there is really good help. You just have to know where to find it. And if you don't know where to find it, you've got my number. You can just give me a call, and I'll walk you through the steps.
Okay, and Michael, I know that on your website as well for the documentary, you have a whole bunch of resources on there. And I was thinking one of the treatments in your documentary, the Warrior Heroes, was that the same place in Virginia? Was it something like that?
Yeah. So Melissa mentioned Veterans Alternative. So that's one of the programs we featured in the film. So Brian Anderson and his team were featured in the film. We went there. And another great resource that I would love to mention is 220.org. It's the number 2, and then spell out zero.org. They're the ones behind this new film that I did, Healing the Heroes of 9/11. Their nonprofit funded that project. They hired me to direct and produce it for them. But they're the ones who are behind TRP. Again, stands for Trauma Resiliency Protocol. And very similar to what Melissa does. It's so powerful to see it take place, the before and the after, right in front of your eyes. It's amazing. And I got to do that on film, and it was shocking and just amazing to watch. But 220.org, they produced this film, and it's being sent out and given away for free this weekend on the 11th to be available on YouTube, Vimeo, all the different platforms, but also at their website. So you can watch. It's only going to be an hour long. You can watch the whole film and see it firsthand, see it work. And and then contact any of the resources that Melissa mentioned. And then on my site, woundedheroesdocumentary.com, there's a resource page that also lists many things, including how to get ART. It's all there.
It's all there. I'm so grateful that we had the opportunity to have both of you on the program. And so I'm going to give you about a minute to wrap it up for your section. And Melissa, I'll ask you to go first.
Okay, I'm just going to repeat my information for folks so that they can get a hold of me. My cell phone number is 586-222-3391. Yes, I'm crazy. I'm giving out my cell phone number to everybody on the radio. But that's just because I'm committed and I care and I will follow through with you, I promise. And then www.TherapeiaCounseling.com is our website. We've got information, resources, links to Brian Anderson's video, links to ART videos, and additional information and resources for people. So I just want to say one thing. I want to talk to that person right now who's listening, who feels like this must be BS. There's no way that you can just get better that quickly. And they feel that way because they've tried. They've done their best. They've already tried to get over it. They've tried to get through it. They've tried to go around it. But PTSD is an obstacle in our brain. And all we need to do is do a hard reset. When we do that, things go where they're supposed to. Other things just fall off and unburden from us. And we feel completely healed. And that feeling doesn't go away. So I would just want to tell that person, give me an hour and you won't regret it. And if you do, I'll give you your money back. How's that? Nothing to lose but an hour of your time. You know, I want these guys knocking at the door. I want them standing in line when I get to my office at 9:00 in the morning. I want them to know that there is a way forward. And, 22 every day. Like I can't talk about it without it breaking my heart. And in the last month, I've known of some recent suicides. And I know that this talk about Afghanistan all the time is triggering that. But there are people that need you, and you need to be able to feel like yourself again. So reach out, find someone to help. And if it can be me, great. And if not, just go someplace and don't stop trying and don't give up.
Right. And don't forget that Veterans Crisis Line. Again, I'll give it out to you. It's 800-273-8255. Press the number 1. There's many, many people out there that are qualified to help you out. If you need help, reach out. Just reach out. There are so many people that want to help. The local veteran service organization is demonstrating, the 22 suicides. Still, that number is over 20 a month. By putting 20 crosses in the ground out by the Vietnam Veterans Memorial over in Ypsilanti Township here locally, and probably there are other places around the country that are doing the same thing. Whatever it does, we've got your back. We had your back when you were in the service and when you were in Afghanistan or Vietnam or wherever you were fighting your war. Let us help you. Let us help you. Just reach out. Michael, you get the last word.
I'll make it quick. So for Wounded Heroes, if anybody wants to watch it, it is available at Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, Vudu, you name it. It's out there. WoundedHeroesDocumentary.com has links to all of the different platforms, the trailer, film excerpts, press interviews, a lot of different things. And most importantly, the resource page as well. And then Healing the Heroes of 9/11 comes out on September 11th. You can go to 220.org to watch it, or go to YouTube or Vimeo and just type in Healing the Heroes of 9/11. I'm glad to be here. This is my gift to the military and also first responders doing these films. My wife and I funded the Wounded Heroes. We raised a little bit of money, but we couldn't raise enough. So we funded the rest of it ourselves because it was important that we get this message out and save lives. And since I am a civilian and I have the utmost respect for our military and our first responders, this is our way of just giving back and saying thank you for what you do. But get your life back. It is possible. So just take that step.
Well, again, I want to thank both of you. It's because of people like you that there is help out there for us, for all of you first responders, for all of you veterans out there that are still having some problems in transitioning back to a civilian life the way you remember it. So, you are changed. Your life has changed dramatically. When you're exposed to trauma like that, it's going to be difficult sometimes to look at life again and smile. But by watching these films and talking with people like Melissa, we can help you. So please, whatever you take from today's program, reach out. There's people there that want to help you. So I want to thank Melissa Engle and Michael Gier for being on Veterans Radio today. Thank you very, very much. It's a privilege and an honor to know both of you and to talk to you. And I hope that we can have you back on if, as we need you. So Absolutely. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to take a real quick break here. And when we come back, we're going to be highlighting one of the businesses from the NVBDC. So you're listening to Veterans Radio. We will be right back. The Medal of Honor is the highest award for valor in combat given a member of the Armed Forces of the United States. There have been over 3,500 recipients of our nation's highest award. This is one of them. On August 8, 2012, in Kunar Province, Afghanistan, Captain Florent Groberg distinguished himself by acts of gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty while serving as a personal security detachment commander for Task Force Mountain Warrior, 4th Infantry Division during combat operations against an armed enemy. Details after this.
If you have a VA claim denied by the Board of Veterans' Appeals, contact Legal Help for Veterans at 1-800-693-4800. They're experts in handling cases before the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. Their number again, 1-800-693-4800.
On that day, Captain Groberg was leading a dismounted movement consisting of several senior leaders to include 2 brigade commanders, 2 battalion commanders, 2 command sergeant majors, and an Afghan National Army brigade commander. As they approached the provincial governor's compound, Captain Groberg observed an individual walking close to the formation. When the individual made an abrupt turn toward the formation, he noticed an abnormal bulge underneath the individual's clothing. Selflessly placing himself in front of one of the brigade commanders, Captain Groberg rushed forward, using his body to push the suspect away from the formation. Captain Groberg confirmed the bulge was a suicide vest and, with complete disregard for his life, physically pushed the suicide bomber away from the formation. Upon falling, the suicide bomber detonated his explosive vest, killing 4 members of the formation and wounding numerous others. The blast from the first suicide bomber caused the suicide vest of a previously unknown as second suicide bomber to detonate prematurely with no additional casualties. Captain Groberg's immediate actions to push the first suicide bomber away from the formation significantly minimized the impact of the coordinated suicide bomber's attack on the formation, saving the lives of his comrades and several senior leaders. Captain Groberg's extraordinary heroism and selflessness above and beyond the call of duty at the risk of life are in keeping with the highest traditions of military service and reflect credit upon him and the United States Army. The Medal of Honor series is a production of Veterans Radio America.
Military veterans touch everyone's life. I'm guessing right now you're thinking of a veteran, a close friend, relative. Maybe it's you. Even the toughest of us sometimes need help, but don't know where to turn for support. You don't need special training to help a veteran in your life. Even small actions can make a world of difference. If you know a veteran in crisis, please call the Veterans Crisis Line, 800-273-8255. 800-273-8255. A message from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs.
We're back here on Veterans Radio, and as you were well aware, our topic today on the program was to talk about suicide prevention, to offer all kinds of alternative treatments for post-traumatic stress. And we hope that you learned that. And more information will be put up on our website and also on Melissa Engle's website and Michael Gier's website for you. Again, I know I'm repeating myself, but I got to get into this right away because I might overrun this. We have a segment that we're running today for the National Veteran Business Council. It's Jeff King, and it's Jim Falzone did the interview, so we're going to go right to that right now. It's about a veteran-owned business. Jeff King is the Operations and Certification Manager at NVBDC.
Welcome. I am Jim Falzone, and this is Veteran Radio's Spotlight on National Veteran Business Development Council, better known as NVBDC.org. Veterans Radio America, a nonprofit, has a partnership with NVBDC. NVBDC is the nation's leading third-party authority for certification of veteran-owned businesses of all sizes. This 501c3 nonprofit was established in 2013. It addresses the growing need to identify and certify both service-disabled and veteran-owned businesses for the commercial or corporate marketplace. NVBDC administers a rigorous certification process designed to withstand the scrutiny of corporate and governmental entities seeking to utilize certified veteran-owned businesses. And we want to welcome to Veterans Radio Jeff King, who is the Operations and Certification Manager for NVBDC. Jeff, welcome to Veterans Radio.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much.
Well, you're an Army veteran. We'll talk about that a little bit later. You come out of the automotive sales industry. You've been with NVBDC now as the Operations and Certification Manager for about 3 years. And there's always something new going on at NVBDC. So why don't we start there? Jeff, tell us what's new going on at NVBDC.
Well, Jim, I mean, to start off, we have been growing by leaps and bounds. So we're constantly investing into new technology. About a year and a half ago, we implemented a new online certification application-based portal where now the veterans will have more access to not only their application, but more access to other veteran-owned businesses and to corporations that are members in our organization. So between the technology, the hardware, the software, we're growing. That's on the certification side, but on the operations side, we have brought in Kathy Poynton, who is our MVO task force, and her segment, if you will, is aligning the NVBDC with the veteran service organizations. So, and I mean, there is constant growth. So you may hear through the VFW, Rosie the Riveters, and many groups like this throughout the country are getting their business owners, their veteran business owners, and identifying them, and we are working to collaborate together. We are also expanding our role in the government sector because the SBA will be inheriting, if you will, the CVE in 2022. We are fundamentally helping the SBA and understanding the terminology, the basically what we call the veteran status guidelines out of the laws. And we hired a gentleman by the name of Mark Sutton, who comes from, I believe it's the American Legion. He's had years in there, and brings a lot of government, related contacts, and sources. So our organization is now being even tied more to the government and throughout their whole process.
Well, that's an important point to make for our veterans out there who may be business owners. Originally, you self-certified, you were a veteran-owned business. That had a lot of shenanigans going on. That's why corporations said, we need somebody reliable. We need a group reliable to certify folks. And that's how NVBDC came along to fill that need with corporate America. And now we've come back around full circuit where the government is saying, we don't do a great job on this certification. Let's get it out of the hands of all of the little departments, including the VA that handle this. Let's put it over with SBA. And SBA has to say, who's best at this? And they ought to look at what NVBDC is doing, and that's where your government affairs comes in. So it's kind of an interesting full circle, as this has gone on now for, what do you at, 8, 9 years into this. So interesting turn of events. You mentioned that your technology also helps with networking. And so I know you've had some programs and that you have some programs coming up where veteran business owners get to network with buyers, but also among themselves. Tell us a little bit more about that networking piece.
Well, normally during non-COVID years, we would have our national face-to-face event matchmaker where we bring in some of the world's biggest corporations who are members with us, who require our certification to have face-to-face opportunities to pitch your product, pitch your service. But with the COVID, we'll be in our second year of online event. And that event will be a 2-day event, November 3rd and 4th. It'll be online. Veterans are welcome to go to NVBDC.org to register for the event. The veterans need to know that, it's open to them also, because, if they have a matchmaking opportunity and, they know that they could, work with somebody like Walmart or, Verizon or Johnson & Johnson, they're going to require our certification. So this is where we show real opportunity to our veterans. And then, it's a 2-day event online. And then if they decide that they're going to need to apply, well, we'll take them and we'll take care of them.
Well, it's an interesting way for folks to sort of maybe answer the question that's rolling around in their mind is this worth any, does this have value to me to go through this process? Because it is a rigorous process. It does have a little cost associated with it. But by going to this virtual networking event online, the matchmaker event, maybe a business owner could see that, geez, I see opportunities here. You don't have to be a Fortune 50 company or Fortune 500 company to participate. Right. These are veteran-owned businesses at all sorts of levels, aren't they?
They are. One of the big misnomers out there is that this is for small business. The NVBDC has a couple of billion-dollar veteran-owned companies, 7-8 plants around the world, to the startup. The guy still has a little CNC mill out in his pole barn, but yet he wants to do some work for Ford. But so we have all sizes of businesses, and as these matchmaking events occur, there's all levels of requests. From, hey, we need somebody in Tennessee to I need somebody who can carry freight across the country. So you get all sizes, all requests. A lot of the PPE requests has come through the NVBDC, and we have seen a lot of growth for companies. And that's one thing our veterans need to know, is that if they grow and they become a medium-sized company, a large-sized company, well, the CVE, the SBA is no longer going to verify or certify them. We're the only ones who are doing that large of companies across the globe.
And that's a good point, because I actually had a client who was so successful he grew out of being considered small enough for the SBA certification, and he called me up. He says, Jim, I can't believe this. They pulled my certification. I said, no, they didn't pull your certification. You've been too successful. You're no longer a small business. That's what's happened here. And they still need that certification to keep with some other of their customers. And again, that's where NVBDC comes in to say, no, this is a certified veteran-owned business.
Absolutely.
Jeff, we're talking to Jeff King, who is the Operations and Certification Manager for NVBDC. As we wrap up the spotlight here, tell us, our listeners again, Jeff, where folks might learn about the certification process through your organization and how they might register if they were interested in the November 3rd and 4th matchmaker.
So everybody needs to know that our website is nvbdc.org. Also, Jim, I will be free to give out my email address here too, because we have a lot of veterans who have questions about the certification process. Actually, the best email address is certification@nvbdc.org. And that is just a couple ways that you can get a hold of us. Our officers are listed publicly. Their email addresses are all public. And, so we're here, to fulfill all your questions, and provide as much support as possible.
Thanks, Jeff King, for updating us in the spotlight for nvbdc.org.
All right, that was Jim Falsone and Jeff King from the National Veteran Business Development Council talking about how you, if you're a veteran-owned business, can benefit by working with the NVBDC. It's really an important organization, because in order for you to do business with the federal government and many corporations as a veteran-owned business, you do need to get certified. So these are the people to talk to. Their website is NVBDC.org. Again, I want to really remind people that today's program was dedicated to helping the mental health of our veterans and first responders and anybody else out there. If you watch that program, we were talking to two people that have done everything in their power to help you resolve your issues and so forth. Number one was Melissa Engle, and her company is called Therapeia Counseling. Her website is TherapeiaCounseling.com. That's THERAPIA Counseling.com. And she said, give her a call if you have questions or anything along those lines. She suggested that you might want to do that, and I would do that too, because she is very dedicated to helping veterans. The other, of course, was Michael Gier, and Michael, his website for his film, which I encourage you to take a look at, the Wounded Heroes documentary, is woundedheroesdocumentary.com. So when you get the opportunity, check both of those out. Don't forget the Veteran Summit coming up on the 15th of September. We're very happy to have you here on Veterans Radio. We will be back next week. And until then, this is Dale Throneberry for Veterans Radio. You are dismissed.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.